for the same money, you could have something as silly as this that was on the front of Midnight Club Dub Edition. So guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are in my Chrysler 300C, a car that is, well, it's incredibly odd, isn't it? It's just a weird thing for the UK roads. Now I thought I'd do a proper review of this car because I bought it many months ago, have performed a colour change to the exterior, and it has these we're going to gloss past the wheels, they are going to change, but it has aftermarket wheels on it. So the perspective of this car being relatively standard, the only modification we really have is a cut-up exhaust system and these terrible wheels. So today what I wanted to do is talk to you guys about owning one of these things, do a slight overview of this car as an owner, because you can pick one of these cars up for cheap. I mean really cheap these days. This one I'm sat in today cost me just £600. Yes, granted, I did buy it with no MOT, tons of problems, these wheels on it, but in the general scheme of things, you can get one of these running and driving for say 1,500 quid to £2,500 for the diesel variant. But we'll get straight into it. The diesel variant, probably the best bet for the UK roads. I am still averaging 26 mpg. Now that is going around town, going about my daily duties, not any motorway. 70 mile an hour cruising mpg. You'll probably see way over 30. I did get 30 on the way over a 60 mile an hour road the other day, so it is capable of doing that. I feel like the Hemi version of this, and I've had a Hemi in a Dodge Ram before, ridiculous vehicle, always wanted to own one, did it. I don't think I would probably go for the Hemi in the UK if I was to daily drive this. Yes, if you don't mind putting up with these single figure mpg figures, then go for it. But I would probably say your best bet in the UK, go for the diesel variant. Now, the diesel engine being a relatively Mercedes-based engine, because in this era, in this 300C, it is a German and American partnership where most of the mechanicals and stuff is German, but styling, inside, various bits like that were all of the Americans' way of building a car, and that definitely shows. Now, I will say at the start of this video, I'm a huge American car fan. The drawbacks for me aren't necessarily in styling and plastics and stuff, but I will point those out. I am incredibly biased to the American way of building a car, mainly because, especially in this variant, you have large seats. They are sublimely comfortable as well. Your driving position is basically a huge lazy boy armchair that just sinks you in as you get in. You have this massive steering wheel in front of you with slight, I'm gonna say wood trim, it's not really wood, but the slightly wooden steering wheel in front of us does set the tone for the 300C. As we come past a tractor, sprightly, not really, it's a big old car this. It does get going though, this one does hunker down, but it changes gear quite quickly up into the next rev. Big diesels like this, yes, very mappable, but in the one we have today, my car hasn't been mapped. I don't know what the rolling road figures are. We will get there though to see what 122,000 miles really does to one of these cars. So the inside, I will talk, you know, more about this in the walkthrough, but there's a lot of plastic in here, not too much leather, plastic door cards, plastic on the dash with silver trim. You have a very fancy Chrysler clock in front of us though. One thing to point out in the sound system though is the sound system. It is incredibly good for a what is now cheap car these days. The Boston sound system, which I'd never heard of until I saw Chrysler products, is actually very, very good. A lot of bass, and the mid and treble very, very loud in this. Oh, another American car fan. That was a nice Mustang there. If you didn't see that, it's a fastback like 1967, I'm gonna say. But I think the essence of this car when it came out was that it was a luxury premise for the UK and worldwide, to get into a big American car, which I think they hit the nail on the head with. This is a very era correct car. It's a very correct car from America to distribute into the UK and surrounding areas. I completely get why this did very well, because in comparison to your, your 5 Series, say, at the time, it was out there and a bit weird, but also made a lot of sense. It was comfortable, it had a diesel engine, it wasn't crazy on the MPG. The inside was nice enough, and sat in traffic now like I do every day, it's actually an okay place to be in here. It's not too Americanified for it to be a bit naff in here. It's okay. If we do though go back a few years and think about my Lexus GS300 that I have, which is a fantastic car, that is exactly the same era as this car with a 3-litre petrol engine. And although this 300C is a fantastic car for the money, that GS300, like a Mark III, is way better, 100% better. You get a lot more amenities, bigger screens. Although the chairs are slightly nicer in this one, it has leather everywhere and various bits and bobs like that. Similarly priced these days too. For the styling, I think Chrysler did hit the nail on the head with what they were after with this car. It does look big and bulky and brutish, especially if you Raptor line the whole car and black most of it out. It's funny because I remember Midnight Club, Dub Edition, and this car was on the front cover with one of the doors up, and I was like, huh, what's that then? That's cool. This is before I'm driving, when these cars came out. The rap scene then took these cars and elevated them with big wheels and silly things, Lambo doors, whatever they were doing at the time. But I think as a staple of place, time, era correct vehicle, this was it for stuff like that, which I grew up around. So I will always have a weird obsession with cars like this, and explaining that to some people is hard work. But I remember getting Midnight Club Dub Edition and going, oh, let's put that in. We put it in the PS2 at the time, and this was one of the cars in there, and you could modify it, and it was on the front cover, and you thought, huh, I quite like that, that's pretty cool. So subsequently, when they come up for next to no money, of course, you're going to buy one. And now they are, in circulation, they are easy to pick up. If you are from that era and you want a good daily driver that gets the kids in, it isn't too juicy. I mean, it is when you're driving around town. Apparently 26 is what I was getting in most of my 3-litre Lexuses, but I feel like as an oddball daily, you're definitely there, and as a budget car, you're definitely there. Just please, for Christ's sake, don't put any Bentley badges on this. I get the Bentley-esque grille from the front end, the lights are relatively similar, the chrome that would have been on this one is relatively similar, the body style of early Bentleys is relatively similar, but apart from that, it's just not that, is it? So let's take a quick look around this thing. I am a few weeks into the Raptor lining, and I haven't actually washed the car since I've done it, mainly because I want it to cure properly before we actually go down the route of washing this thing. Sorry about the road noise and stuff. Super busy day. Everyone is on their holidays on the Isle of Wight apparently, but styling wise, ain't no Bentley, is it, at the end of the day? It's got the Bentley grille, I get it, I understand that it's Bentley-esque, but it just ain't it. So for me, the whole Bentley badging stuff, I seriously don't get it. And the whole budget Bentley thing, Bentleys are way nicer built than these, so yeah, we will lay that to rest to the side. Style-wise though, very American of the early mid-2000s in my opinion, and I think they captured what they were after pretty easily. You will be able to spot one of these very easily in a car park. Put it next to a 5 Series, same generation. There is a big difference in just the way it looks and the styling and the thickness of the arches and various bits like that, even down to, I always think side profile is a really big thing on these, because the windows are tiny in comparison. They're like this big in comparison to this big body, and that gives the whole I'm gonna say mafia, gangster, whatever it is that people seem to think these are, down to the window size. It is incredibly small considering how big the doors are. Take this rear door for instance, the door is this big and the window is this big. Now from a driving perspective, that does make a big difference because you can't see visibly around the car as much. The wing mirrors actually are a lot smaller than I was expecting them to be when you're driving. Ain't a bad thing, you get used to it, but that is something to think about if you're actually after daily driving one of these. We'll come around though, again the car is slightly dirty, the wheels need redoing as well because I am not much of a fan of them, as you probably tell. Rear end styling though, again very American, if I'm honest. Big bumper, slightly higher up. I mean, again, the rear window actual line, as you can see with the rear windows, is so high that you don't actually see much of the back of the car when you're driving. In fact, the parking sensors are a bit hit and miss on this one at the moment, so sometimes I don't really know how far away the back of the car is, which is again a very American thing, but that's just my perspective as an owner. We will come down though. It is a slight mess inside because guess what? I daily drive this car everywhere, constantly doing mileage. Grey interior, not much of a fan. I'd probably go for an SRT design one if I could, because that's my sort of thing. I would probably want the better seats. SRT design diesels do pull a premium though. We'll say that now. They are nicer inside than this one, but you will be charged a little bit more. Plastic door cards, as I've already said, but there is carpet up to here, which is really, really odd. If you think about it, carpet up to there, but then they didn't sort of go any further with nice leathers, or even the leather that were, you know, put on these seats up here. Bit odd, one of those things to point out. Not that much of a fan of the grey plastic in here, but that's just personal preference. Again, with the centre console, I mean, it does everything. All the dials are there. The sat nav and that is pretty irrelevant these days, but it looks okay. Again, this car looks like that centre console. It's just okay, you know, it's just okay. Bentley clock in the centre. Steering wheel, again, absolutely massive, very American. The styling of the steering wheel and how big it is when you're actually driving, sort of like a boat. But I'm weird, and I sort of like the whole large steering wheel, laid back, big comfy seats thing. Another thing to point out, we love cup holders, especially I do on this channel. Cup holders, bang right there. So if you take the combination of seats, cup holders, big lazy steering and big lazy car, it ticks all the boxes there. We have a centre armrest here, but it's just plastic, no nice materials on that. And I think that's down to whether this was built to a price point at the time, or that's just the American way of not necessarily putting too many nice materials on places like where your arms are. Both of my arms are sort of on plastic, grey plastic bits in here, whereas the steering wheel just has leather up until here with this fake wood, pretend wood that the Americans put on stuff. Again, it's not a bad thing, I'm not being negative, but it's something to point out. If you're coming after, you know, owning a BMW 5 Series, you're gonna notice these things very, very quickly. We will start the car up though. The car actually moves the driver's seat towards the steering wheel rather than the steering wheel coming towards you like a Lexus. And she starts up, 3-litre diesel engine coming in strong there. Bongs happening because I haven't got my seatbelt on. Centre screen is pretty self-explanatory. So you have a cigarette lighter just down here. You have a cigarette lighter under here as well. Heated seats and a slight cubby here. Not sure what it's really for, because you can't quite fit your phone in there these days because phones are big, but I'm sure you could find maybe your wallet in there very, very easily. Other than that though, and I'm going to say this now, this is such a lovely car to be in, mainly because of size and comfort. I'm a comfort fan when it comes to driving around every day. This ticks those boxes though of comfort, spec, because the sound system is so good and the cup holders are in the right place, and it's something a little bit quirky, weird and different. And if we think about the market and what you can actually buy these days, and you've got £2,000 for a diesel automatic big luxury car, there is a lot of cars out there. A lot of them do fit in with the crowd though. Your 5 Series, your Mercedes E-classes, they all sort of fit in, but for the same money you could have something as silly as this that was on the front of Midnight Club Dub Edition, and that was cool. That was cool at the time, and I thought that was cool, and I'm weird, and I'm in my mid-30s now, and I'm still trying to live that fantasy of Midnight Club. With that, guys, I'm going to end today's video there. Thank you so much for coming and having me ramble on about my Chrysler 300C and how I think it's actually okay. And I'm saying that on the internet. Yeah, I'm gonna get roasted in the comments for this one. Seriously though, there's a lot of cars out there that give you a lot of things. This one for me, the checklist is cup holders, right there. Big seat, check. Fantastic sound system, check. Lazy ride and driving position, big check. And it's a little bit weird. So big check there. That was my sort of criteria for a car like this that I daily drive. So I think this has hit the nail on the head. But let me know in the comments below what you think of the 300C. Am I absolutely barking mad, going on about how these are actually all right? Am I full of waffle as usual? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you all on the next one.